Chapter 146 of Frieren, Beyond Journeysend, features a cover of the OG Heroes Party squad, with the emphasis on the strongest warrior. The Great Mage Serie, the Feet Goddess, took a look at Yamada Kanehito's script for this week and said, "Oh, are you actually setting up Werlos versus Stark?"
Marvelous.
And what's happening in the Falsh? Well, you win some and you lose some limbs. Coming off the previous chapter in chapter 145 Clairvoyance, Serie introduced how her prophetic dreams work and some clues as to how she will be guided by this other, potentially more accurate clairvoyant person, in the manner of how she'll get by surprise at the neck from a warrior or a person way stronger than she could imagine for this era, with the last remaining clue being that this clairvoyant person is from the southern lands, where most clairvoyant spells comes from this one clan. Check out my previous 3 videos if you guys want to dive deeper into those clues and how it can connect to demons. This chapter starts to tie in some of those clues to Commander Reve's connection to the southern lands, provides a backstory involving Eisen, and is totally setting up a fight against Werlos' friend, student, and Stark. But before we see an arm fly across the tunnel, it's time to start addressing Gorilla Dub's change of life philosophy. From the very introduction of Gorilla Warrior's character, he embodied the very regret his bestie, Zine, aka Goatee Priest, was living out. A forgettable life filled with monotony, while his talents are wasted on healing shonens that always find themselves almost dying. There is a handful of Frieren motifs at work when it comes to Crisis' character and how it connects to his projection of how he literally became the opposite of everything he represented to Goatee P. Like many heroes before Craft the Monk, everyone eventually gets forgotten. The statues and portraits that portrayed Rasen's greatest feats and accomplishments have all been Hakkai'd, meaning that nobody remembers him anymore, except Frieren and probably Serie. Remember the conversation between Werlos and Clematis in chapter 134? Routine and Iris sent a report that the escape route from the time of the unified empire is impassable. The same tunnel where Falsh was gaining intel from Routine and Iris. Funny enough, only Werlos can pass through underwater in 20 minutes. Look at him, just chilling like a villain. That is where Gorilla and Werlos are right now. And right away, the story addresses our biggest concern for such a 180 flip for Gorilla's character, as he brings up that nobody remembers Werlos, and all the things that are supposed to help maintain that memory are long gone. Thus, the life of a vagabond. Much of this chapter shows how crazy strong Werlos is, and in turn, showing how much stronger Commander Reve is, still selling us on the point that he will be the one to yeet Serie. Gorilla continues on that Rasen is literally the hero of this country. It feels kinda messed up losing that long lost acknowledgement of all your great deeds and feats being long gone, being looked at as a shadow. However, Werlos doesn't seem to care anymore, at least on the surface. I'm sure there isn't a messed up backstory there for the formerly known as Rasen. Gone. My bad, had to do it. Gorilla points out that Werlos' superhuman strength and durability is crazy strong, but there is a running motif going on here with him saying that all of this is normal for him, which leads to our first connection to the great warrior Eisen of the Heroes Party. Remember when Eisen fought Rivale in chapter 117-118? During the Goddess Monument arc, Eisen brings up the fact that warriors without fear are destined to die on the battlefield. Eisen is not the strongest, he simply just lived longer than the ones that just ended up getting yeeted on the battlefield. And as we know, Eisen is strong because of his fear, and of course, Stark is too. Eisen is the great contrast to warriors like a younger Werlos that believed that they were the strongest, fighting using pride and fearlessness to fight to a degree that just ends up getting you yeeted. That is what Werlos hints at with what Eisen has said before as a deadly weakness. It's because of what Eisen told him that he was able to live to fight another day. And guess who he fought before? Rivale, the bloody god of war, demons' strongest warrior. Gorilla continues to point out how contradictory he sounds because to Christ, who has known him for 8 whole years. And let's not forget that dwarf lifespans are longer than humans too, and his sense of time is skewed like Frieren's, but on a lesser scale. Werlos tells Gorilla that everything he is saying is something he tells himself, even if deep down he wants that honorable death, and acknowledges that Eisen, being the strongest warrior, had the ability to yeet him. As time moves on, both Eisen and himself are old, and their prime is long behind them. Unless you're an elf or a demon, they got the true fountain of youth. Werlos brings up Commander Reve. Once again, in reference to chapter 134, Clameda says Werlos is his biggest asset. And if a monster like Werlos was able to sneak up on the Continental Magic Association, that would make it even more vulnerable for Serie to get yeeted. But Razin still acknowledges that Lo is way stronger than him, now that he's old. So much so now that he's even afraid of Lo. But like in chapter 139, and confirmed even further now with Werlos, that guy that is so much stronger than him in Commander Luvu is just a pawn in the grand scheme to eliminate magic, orchestrated by an unknown person, entity, or group. But I guess Commander Reve did reference a group. Faust continues to build upon the lore of how strong Werlos is, comping him to a demon general, which in turn shows how terrifyingly strong Commander Lion is. And that actually takes us to the end of chapter 145, where Faust sees both Werlos and Gorilla walking through the Unified Empire escape tunnel. This is where Faust notices that someone as strong of a presence like Werlos would never be able to get past the magic special forces, and so this hidden tunnel makes a ton of sense. We learn that Faust found out about this location due to Serie's old collection of blueprints. With Faust's newfound intel, he now knows that the Shadow Warriors commander is a guy named Luvu. Before they had intel on basically all the lore status Shadow Warriors except the commander, he connects this to the Governor General of the Lorebeard domain, who happens to be named Lo as well. Using Lineal's intel, Reve gained his reputation through covert operations in these southern lands. With what Serie said before about the clairvoyant person being from the southern lands, this doesn't necessarily mean Lo is that southern lands clairvoyant person, but it adds more circumstantial evidence that he is at least connected to the clairvoyant southern lands peak goddess Yeeter. Just when Faust saw how insanely strong Werlos is and wants to take back this newfound info to Frieren to help handle them, Razin senses Faust in his quickened heartbeat. Move and I'll kill you. And so, like a smart guy, Faust decides to move, and then there goes his arm. Last time I saw an arm flying, it was Himmel's doing. Looks like Werlos spared him for the time being and drops some cliche lines as he tells him to not move or it'll be his head next time. Faust momentarily feels a sense of relief that he's not dead yet, but we have to believe that Gorilla and Werlos are going to try to keep him alive to steal his intel. Not looking good for all the people that think Faust is the Serie betrayer, Uragiri Mono bastard. We have to believe that Faust will find a way to get out of this situation, right? He's literally 1/3 of the operation, and so it doesn't seem right that he would get yeeted so fast and easily right here. He also doesn't seem like the person that would just spill the beans about everything the Continental Magic Association is planning either. There are so many outlets in the story for what can happen to Faust and what he could do next. For all we know, he might just be a body double like Megane 2. Most importantly, if Faust does sacrifice himself, I think the narrative is too blatant that Faust knows about Reve and the connection to the Southern Lands, that he doesn't at the very least get yeeted knowing that he was able to relay his new intel to Sense and Frieren, which would somehow get back to Serie and probably the Emperor too, which could change the future of her assassination attempt. Overall, this is another great chapter that adds a small piece of info to this future murder mystery. Aside from the Serie situation, it feels like it's just setting up Stark versus Werlos, which would make sense if it's Frieren's group that includes Gold CP to battle against Gorilla and Werlos, and maybe heal Faust's arm too, if he somehow makes it. So yeah guys, Let me know what you guys think about this chapter. Did this new info about Commander Reve change your minds about what may happen to Serie? I would love to know. And do me a favor, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com, and I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.